Warning: an energy in your life just activated. For the next 2 weeks, things will not move the way they used to. They will feel quieter at first. They will feel like a slowdown, like doors that were once open simply stop creaking. Don't be alarmed. Be ready. Something inside you just flipped on and life is beginning to clear the runway. You may notice it as a silence. Conversations that used to start don't. Invitations you expected don't arrive. The person who always asked favors stops calling. At first it will feel like loss. Hold that feeling lightly. This is not loss. Protection. This is not punishment. Preparation. For a short season, subtraction is working as shelter. Think of the world like a crowded airport. Previously you were on a taxiway full of traffic, voices, people, possibilities, all converging, tugging you in a dozen directions. Now a light has blinked on above your gate. The traffic is being rerouted. Some flights are cancelled. The runway is clearing. It feels empty because what needed to leave is finally being moved aside so a single plane, yours, can taxi, turn, and take off without circling for hours. Notice how certain conversations simply stop. Notice how you no longer find yourself explaining, persuading, or shrinking to fit a role that used to fit you. This filtering will feel strange because you are used to the noise as proof that something is happening. Quiet in this season is the sign of alignment showing up as protection. Repeat with me in your mind as you listen, not loss. Protection. A small story. A woman I know, call her Maya, worked years negotiating an unreliable partnership. She spent energy patching holes, covering for others, justifying broken agreements. When her internal shift activated, the partnership stopped reaching out. Contracts were not renewed. At first she panicked. Then she noticed the relief that followed. Mornings without dread. Weekends that no longer belonged to someone else. Within a few weeks, a different collaborator appeared, steady, clear, trustworthy. It didn't feel like instant reward. It felt like space finally made available for a different rhythm. The subtraction was not a penalty. It was runway clearing, not loss, protection. Reflective prompt. What has stopped showing up in your life lately? Name one conversation, one invitation, one relationship that has thinned or fallen away. Write it down. Breathe. Ask yourself, what space has that absence created? This filtering is not random cruelty. It's selective. It is subtle, like a sieve turning over the silt. The wrong people, the mismatched opportunities, the draining patterns will lose access because they cannot match the frequency what you are becoming emits. Think of it as spiritual discernment without the noise. The universe, call it life, call it spirit, call it your inner intelligence, is not punishing you by taking things away. It is protecting you by ensuring the wrong fits no longer make contact. Here is another micro-anecdote, a comment from someone who wrote in after noticing a similar season. They described feeling ghosted by a string of acquaintances and a job lead that evaporated. For weeks they felt bereft. Then one morning they received a message from an old friend who introduced them to a quiet opportunity they would have otherwise missed. The writer called it weirdly gentle justice. That phrase hangs because it names a thing many of us resist. Justice can be a restoration of calm rather than a loud reckoning, not loss, protection. Now let's talk about a line you are probably familiar with, potential. The world sells you on the idea of potential as a prize to chase. Potential is seductive. It shimmers with what could be and keeps you bargaining for versions of yourself you haven't become yet. But there's a different posture emerging now, choosing peace over potential. Peace isn't boring, it's clarity. Peace is a fertile ground. Potential without peace is often an anxious chase. Peace with small openings is the soil where steady growth takes root. Imagine two gardens. One is crowded with seedlings, all labeled maybe someday. Hands are constantly watering, worrying, repositioning. That garden exhausts you. The other garden has a few healthy plants, spaced and thriving. each getting what it needs without constant rescue. Which garden do you want to tend? The activated energy is inviting you to the second garden. You won't have every possible plant, but what grows will be suited to the climate of your new life. A short vignette. A man named Luis spent years chasing the next promotion. He took extra tasks, networked aggressively, said yes to every new committee. When the shift activated, several of his side projects stalled and invitations declined. For the first time, he had unstructured evenings. Instead of filling them with more strategy, he began to learn a craft, something he had shelved. Over months, that craft became part of his identity and led him to collaborators who valued his skill rather than his availability. He began choosing peace over endless potential. Peace isn't boring, it's clarity. Reflective prompt. What part of your life have you been expanding out of fear rather than invitation? Write 3 things you say yes to out of obligation. Now circle 1 you can release this week. Notice the relief that follows as you do. This season also brings a correction we might call internal justice. Many people expect justice to look like retribution, drama, or public vindication, but spiritual justice more often resembles restoration. It returns what was lost in quieter forms, your time, your attention, your inner lightness. Think less courtroom and more recovery room. You get back what you were robbed of, not as punishment for someone else, but as healing for you. A cultural parallel. After economic downturns, neighborhoods sometimes empty out. The shops close, streets go quiet. At first it looks like decline. Then small, patient investors and new caretakers move in, convert old storefronts into places that better serve the remaining residents. Justice, in that context, wasn't dramatic. It was structural. Walls repaired, sidewalks rebuilt, light fixtures returned. Your life may be undergoing a similar renovation. The loud, theatrical justice you expect is rare. The quiet return of your equilibrium is far more common and far more priceless. Reflective prompt. Recall a time when someone wronged you and you wanted them to be exposed. Instead, imagine your peace being restored. How does that restoration feel in your body? Describe it in 2 sentences. As the energy shifts, you will notice the rise of a quiet confidence. This is not the kind of confidence that brags, demands, or proves. It is the kind that stands steady when a room grows thin. It's the calm center of your life that no longer requires applause to validate its choices. Quiet confidence is a byproduct of alignment. When your inner world is matching your outward life, when your values, boundaries, and daily patterns are coherent, you stop needing external proof. A micro story. Hannah used to rehearse her life like a presentation. She curated every moment to appear a certain way. When the shift moved through, her performative relationships retreated. Without the audience, something unexpected happened. She discovered a steady authority inside herself. Decisions felt lighter. Saying no longer felt like failure. One morning, she chose not to respond to a crisis that had tripped her into old patterns. The world did not collapse. The choice landed as a small, quiet victory. Quiet confidence, not loss. Protection. Quiet confidence. Peace isn't boring. It's clarity. Let these refrains live in you now. Now we arrive at the 2-week catalytic window mentioned at the start. Be careful with this. Timelines are not guarantees. But many people describe windows, short spans where things begin to show momentum after an internal shift. In your case, the next 2 weeks are a likely period when the shift you feel starts to produce visible signs. These signs are not ironclad. They are nudges and patterns worth noticing. They might begin small and compound. Here are a dozen signs you could notice in the coming 2 weeks. Treat them as observations, not promises. A message arriving at a precise needed moment, an unexpected text, email, or voicemail that changes your next step. A conversation that feels unusually aligned. Someone arriving with clarity, not chaos. Old resistance dissolving. Something you feared doing suddenly feels doable. A stalled project showing tiny movement. A reply. An updated calendar invite. A small payment. A new person entering your life with reliability rather than drama. An intuitive nudge that persists. An inner pull you can't ignore. Doors that used to open wide now staying closed without your heartbreak. A pattern of timely information, resources, articles, or ideas appearing when you most need them. A feeling of less friction in daily rhythms, mornings that move more smoothly. A minor coincidence that feels like confirmation, not coincidence. A timing that aligns with your prayers or plans. Physical ease in your body where there was tension. A small, steady momentum in one area that makes other areas feel secondary. If you notice one or two of these things, lean in gently. If you notice none, do not panic. The shift may be rearranging foundations quietly before showing. This is not a test of worth. It's a season of rearrangement. Reflective prompt. Which one of these signs would matter most to you? Choose one and write, "I will be alert to that sign in the next 2 weeks." Put that note where you'll see it daily. To meet this window, cultivate a posture more than a plan. Here are simple, non-prescriptive options to consider, choices to notice rather than rules to obey. Think of this as a readiness checklist in observation form. You do not have to do all of them. Pick what feels sensible and sustainable. Notice your energy levels. Are you more tired or more clear? Adjust your schedule to rest when needed. This is not laziness, it's recalibration. Keep a small, visible list of what you are no longer willing to carry. Phrases like, "I will not be available for emotional labor on demand," or "I will not sign on for projects that lack clear timelines." These are boundaries, not punishments. Practice saying, "Not this," softly. You can decline without drama. Not this is protection, not rejection. Stay open to small invitations, a coffee, a short call, a new email. Allow curiosity without immediate commitment. Protect your mornings. How you start your day will steer the experience of these weeks. Journal nightly. One line about what shifted, one line about what felt like protection. Maintain clarity around finances in small ways, reviewing subscriptions, simplifying outgoing commitments. So practical clutter does not derail spiritual clarity. Surround yourself with steady people. If someone is consistently draining, create distance. Make space for small acts of joy, music, walking, cooking, so your heart remembers pleasure, even amid change. Guard your attention. Choose 2 places to invest it and let other things go. Notice synchronicities. When they appear, mark them. Over time, a pattern will form that you can learn from. Be willing to accept help. If someone offers reliable support, try it on. You don't have to carry every piece alone. Each item is a suggestion for observation. None of them guarantees outcomes. They are practical responses to the new energy, ways to make the runway safer and more receptive. In the middle of this season, you may wrestle with an internal voice asking whether you deserve better. This voice can be loud, blame, shame, or doubt dressed as realism. Choose a kinder response. You are not responsible for every consequence that befell you. You are, however, permitted to receive restoration. Justice here is restorative, getting back what makes life breathable. Another micro-anecdote. Someone wrote about losing a client base after a painful year of feeling used. At first, the loss seemed catastrophic. Months later, they found a small, quieter clientele who paid on time, valued their time, and respected boundaries. The person called it a redesign of taste. That redesign was not cosmetic. It rewired how they showed up for work and for life. Justice returned as better rhythms, not louder vindication. Reflective prompt. What is one compassionate sentence you can tell yourself when doubt rises? Try now. I deserve restoration, not public proof. As you move through these weeks, your identity will begin to rewrite itself more through experience than imagination. Identity change often feels false until it is proven by small realities, a different rhythm of work, a new kind of friend, a clearer decision-making process. Those small realities stack until they become the new normal. Identity is less an argument and more an accumulation. Consider a short portrait. Naomi had once introduced herself through other people's achievements. I'm the person who helps, who steps in, who saves. After the shift began, those rescue opportunities dried up. Naomi's first instinct was panic. Who am I without that role? Over time, she began to notice her own choices independent of others' needs. She replied to a message because she wanted to, not because someone needed fixing. She attended a workshop that spoke to a small joy she had shelved. Slowly, the way she described herself changed, from rescuer to creator. The change was quiet, but deep. This is how identity rewrites, not by declaration alone, but by lived choices that accumulate into truth. Again, not loss, protection. Quiet confidence. Peace isn't boring. It's clarity. Let these lines echo. As the 2-week window closes, you may see a few moments of visible momentum. A meeting scheduled, a conversation turning, a decision that lands differently. These are not guarantees of wealth or miracles. They are probabilities aligning more in your direction because your internal bandwidth has cleared. Treat them as invitations to steady action, not frantic sprinting. Momentum favors consistency. Consistency favors small, aligned choices over dramatic, misaligned bursts. Practical posture to keep. When momentum appears, respond from clarity. Ask 2 questions before saying yes. Does this preserve my energy? Does this move me in the direction I can live with? If the answer is yes, proceed. If no, practice a soft decline. Boundaries are part of justice in practice. There will be moments when old friends or old patterns try to re-enter. Not everything that comes knocking is meant to stay. Use your new inner barometer. It's okay to test things lightly. Invite evidence before commitment. The world may seem impatient. You need not rush to meet it. One last piece of encouragement. You are allowed to receive better. The language of deserving is fraught, but your readiness matters. When an energy shift activates, what it actually does is align more probabilities in your favor. That does not mean everything becomes easy. It means some things will become kinder, some people will fall away to protect you, and some openings will arrive that match the new you. This season will likely ask for patience and discernment, not for frantic chasing. Final reflective prompt. Imagine yourself 2 weeks from now. What do you want to feel? Name 3 feelings: calm, clarity, confidence, and write them down. Keep them where you can see them. If this message resonates, comment below one small change you've already noticed. A conversation that stopped, a door that didn't open, a relief that arrived, and I will pin a few replies. Share one sign you're watching for in the next 2 weeks. It helps others see the pattern and builds a quiet community of readiness. You don't have to figure everything out now. You only need to be present to the small sparks, a timely message, a steady person arriving, a little momentum in a stalled place. Tend those sparks with curiosity, rest when you need rest, and protect your attention like a guard at the gate. Not loss, protection, quiet confidence. Peace isn't boring, it's clarity. Go into these next days with gentleness and watchfulness. Receive what arrives without clinging to what was. Allow the energy that's activated in you to do its work. You are being prepared for steadier things. Be ready to say yes to alignment and to say no to what takes from you. Meet the shift with an open heart and a wise boundary. Subscribe for weekly alignment messages and join the small community practicing readiness. Step into this season with calm courage. Your runway is clearing. Take the next step.